The desperate gamble, the crystal spires of New Altara sang their death song as Emperor Zephylos watched his empire crumble. The ancient crystalline being stood 7 feet tall, his translucent blue form pulsing with dim light as he gazed through the observation deck of the imperial palace. Where once millions of his people had lived in harmony, now only empty cities remained. The shadow plague had consumed everything. "Your Majesty," came a voice behind him. Chief Scientist Lyrillith approached, her smaller crystalline form flickering with nervous energy. Unlike the Emperor's steady blue glow, her light shifted between purple and silver, showing her distress. "We've lost contact with the outer colonies. The Twilight Sector is completely dark." Zephylos turned his ancient eyes toward her. He had ruled the Nexari Empire for over 3,000 years, guiding his people through wars, famines, and natural disasters. But this was different. The shadow plague wasn't just killing his people, it was erasing them from existence itself. "How long do we have?" he asked, his voice carrying the weight of millennia. "Our calculations suggest 2 weeks before it reaches the capital system," Lyrillith replied. Her form dimmed further. "Maybe less. The plague is accelerating." The shadow plague had appeared 6 months ago at the edge of their galaxy. It wasn't a disease in any traditional sense. It was pure entropy, a wave of darkness that consumed everything it touched. Planets, stars, even empty space itself seemed to vanish into an endless void. The Nexari had tried everything, their most advanced weapons, their most sophisticated shields, even evacuation to other dimensions. Nothing worked. "Have you found anything in the archives?" Zephylos asked. Form brightened slightly. "Actually, Your Majesty, I have, but you're not going to like it." She activated a holographic display that filled the air between them. Ancient symbols appeared, written in a language so old that only a few scholars could read it. These were the forbidden texts, knowledge locked away by the first Nexari civilization over 50,000 years ago. The ancients faced something similar. Lyrillith explained. They called it the Great Devouring. According to these texts, they found a way to fight back, but the cost was enormous. "Tell me," Zephylos commanded. They summoned warriors from beyond the known galaxy, beings they called the Death Worlders. Her light flickered with fear. The texts say these creatures came from a world so hostile that surviving there made them stronger than any civilized being. They were described as masters of chaos, beings who thrived on conflict and impossible odds. Zephylos studied the ancient symbols. And did they succeed? "Yes," Lyrillith whispered. But the texts also warn that the Death Worlders were almost as dangerous as the threat they came to fight. The ancients called them necessary demons, beings who could save you or destroy you with equal ease. The Emperor considered this. Outside the palace, he could see the evacuation ships carrying the last of his people to the inner worlds. Every day, more refugees arrived with stories of entire star systems simply ceasing to exist. The shadow plague left nothing behind, not even debris. "What would this summoning require?" he asked. "The quantum resonance array," Lyrillith said. "We would need to drain power from 12 star systems and risk tearing a hole in reality itself. Once we begin, we cannot stop. The quantum entanglement will be permanent, meaning their fate becomes tied to ours. If we call them, they will have no choice but to answer. But we will also have no choice but to face the consequences of our actions." Heavy footsteps echoed through the chamber as General Corvain entered. The military leader was larger than most Nexari, his crystalline form a deep red that spoke of anger and frustration. He had been fighting the shadow plague for months, losing battle after battle. "Your Majesty," he said, his voice tight, with barely controlled emotion, "we've lost the Crimson Fleet, all 12,000 ships. They didn't even slow the plague down." Zephylos felt the weight of his people's extinction pressing down on him. "General, what is your opinion of Chief Scientist Lyrilleth's proposal?" Corvin. Red glow intensified, summoning unknown aliens based on ancient texts. "It's madness. We don't know what we might be calling to our galaxy. They could be worse than the plague. But they might also be our only hope," Lyrilleth countered. "Every conventional weapon has failed. Every strategy has been useless. We need something unprecedented." The Emperor looked between his two advisors. As a leader, he had always chosen the path of wisdom and caution. But wisdom and caution had brought his people to the edge of extinction. Perhaps it was time for madness. "Begin the preparations," he decided. "Activate the quantum resonance array." 3 days later, the ancient machinery deep beneath New Altara hummed to life. The quantum resonance array had been built by the first Nexari civilization and never used. It was a massive structure that stretched for miles underground, its crystalline components designed to bend space and time itself. Lyrilleth stood at the control center, her form blazing with determination. Around her, a dozen technicians worked frantically to channel energy from 12 different star systems. The power requirements were staggering enough to light an entire galaxy for 1,000 years. "Are you certain about this?" General Corvain asked one final time. "No," Lyrilleth admitted. "But I'm certain that doing nothing means extinction." The array reached full power. Space itself seemed to bend as the quantum message launched into the void. It traveled faster than light, faster than thought, searching across the galaxy for the specific energy signature described in the ancient texts. The signature of a world so hostile that it created warriors instead of civilizations. Meanwhile, in a distant spiral arm of the galaxy, Captain Sarah Chen was enjoying her morning coffee when the universe decided to ruin her day. The human starship Endurance had been on a routine survey mission at the edge of human space when every sensor on the ship started screaming warnings. Captain called Dr. Marcus Webb, the ship's xenobiologist, rushing onto the bridge, where, receiving a transmission, "It's not from Earth." Sarah nearly dropped her coffee. In the 300 years since humans had developed faster-than-light travel, they had explored thousands of worlds, but never found another intelligent species. The discovery of alien life was the holy grail of human space exploration. "Put it through," she ordered. The main screen flickered, and suddenly they were looking at something that challenged everything they thought they knew about life in the universe. A tall crystalline being filled the display, its blue form pulsing with internal light. When it spoke, the ship's computers somehow translated its alien words into perfect English. "Greetings, warriors of the distant world," the being said. "I am Emperor Zephylos of the Nexori Empire. We have called across the galaxy because we are dying." Sarah exchanged glances with her crew. This was really happening. They were making first contact with an alien civilization. "We have read of your kind in the ancient texts," Zephylos continued. "The writings speak of beings who come from a world of constant death, where survival itself is a form of warfare. They call you the Deathworlders." "Deathworlders," Dr. Webb whispered. "Is he talking about humans?" The Emperor's image showed scenes of devastation, entire star systems consumed by darkness, fleets of ships simply vanishing into void. The shadow plague has come to our galaxy. It consumes everything it touches, leaving nothing behind. Our weapons are useless. Our shields are meaningless. We need warriors who understand survival against impossible odds. Sarah found her voice. Your Majesty, I'm Captain Sarah Chen of the human starship Endurance. You're saying our world is what you call a death. Captain Chen, Zephylos replied, your planet is legendary among the old records. A world where the very ground shakes with constant earthquakes, where storms can destroy countenance, where the temperature changes can kill most life forms, where predators hunt other predators in an endless cycle of violence. Dr. Webb was checking his datapad. Captain, he's not wrong. Earth's environmental conditions are extremely hostile compared to most theoretical habitable worlds. Our weather patterns are incredibly violent. We have earthquakes, hurricanes, volcanoes, ice ages. And you not only survived all of that, Cephalos said, but you thrived. You turned adversity into strength. You learned to fight not just your enemies, but your own world. That is why we called you. The transmission continued with more details about the Shadow Plague and the desperate situation of the Nexari Empire. But Sarah was beginning to understand something that filled her with both pride and terror. Humanity wasn't just another species, struggling to survive in a hostile universe. They were the product of that hostility, shaped by it, strengthened by it. Your Majesty, she said finally, we'll help you. But I need to contact Earth, and alarms began blaring throughout the ship. The long-range sensors had detected something at the edge of the system, something that shouldn't exist. Captain, her navigator called out, we have contacts approaching from deep space. They're not showing up on any of our databases. Sarah's blood ran cold as she realized what was happening. The Shadow Plague. It followed the quantum signal. Zephylos' image flickered with what might have been regret. I am sorry, Captain Chen. By calling for your aid, we may have doomed your people as well. When Deathworld is answered, the Admiral Rachel Torres stood in the command center of Lunar Station, watching the most impossible briefing of her military career. The holographic display showed the approaching darkness, a wave of absolute nothingness that consumed everything in its path. According to the alien transmission, they had perhaps 6 hours before it reached Earth. Let me understand this correctly, she said, her voice remarkably calm for someone facing the end of human civilization. We've made first contact with aliens who think we're legendary warriors because our planet is apparently a world. And now we're all going to die because they accidentally led space-eating monsters to our doorstep. That's essentially correct, Admiral, Dr. Webb replied via quantum link from the Endurance. But they're also offering to share their technology and knowledge. The Nexari are incredibly advanced. They've been a spacefaring civilization for over 50,000 years. Rachel studied the data streaming in from the alien ship. The Nexari technology was indeed impressive, but it had proven useless against the Shadow Plague. Every weapon they had tried simply passed through the darkness as if it didn't exist. Admiral, came a voice from across the command center. Engineer Pavel Volkov was hunched over a console, his fingers flying across holographic controls. I'm analyzing the Nexari technology specifications. Their energy weapons are based on particle acceleration, but they're using conventional matter-antimatter reactions. Very sophisticated, but still operating within normal physics. And the Shadow Plague. Based on the sensor readings, it appears to exist partially outside normal space-time. It's not just consuming matter, it's consuming the quantum information. That defines reality itself. Rachel felt a chill. So conventional weapons won't work. Correct, but Pavel's eyes lit up with the kind of dangerous enthusiasm that had made him Earth's most brilliant and reckless engineer. The Nexari have quantum manipulation technology. If we could combine their quantum resonance arrays with our gravitational wave generators. You're talking about weaponizing space-time itself, Rachel said. Exactly. The Nexari think in terms of precision and elegance, but humans, ... We think in terms of brute force and controlled chaos. We might be able to create weapons that exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, while Earth's military leaders planned desperate defenses. Captain Chen was learning just how different humans were from other species. The Nexari had welcomed her aboard their ship, but she could sense their fear, not just of the Shadow Plague, but of her. Captain, said Ambassador Quill, a young Nexari diplomat who had been assigned to work with the humans. May I ask you something? The ancient texts describe your people as warriors who fight their own world. What does that mean? Sarah considered the question. Well, take this morning. Before we received your transmission, I was drinking coffee and reading reports about hurricane season. We track massive storms that can level cities, and we've learned to predict them, evacuate people, and rebuild afterward. We consider that normal. Quill's crystalline form flickered with amazement. You fight storms? We fight everything, Sarah replied. Earthquakes, volcanoes, floods, droughts, ice ages. Our entire civilization is built around adapting to constant threats. We don't just survive disasters, we learn from them and become stronger. But how do you maintain peace with such a violent nature? Sarah smiled. Who says we maintain peace? Humans have been fighting each other for thousands of years. We've had wars that killed millions, conflicts that spanned continents. But we've also learned to channel that aggression into positive directions. We compete in sports. We explore dangerous frontiers. We push the boundaries of what's possible. As if to demonstrate her point, Pavel's voice crackled over the communication system. Captain, I've figured out how to turn the Nexari quantum resonance technology into a weapon. It's completely insane and will probably kill us all, but it might work. Explain, Sarah said. The Shadow Plague exists in quantum superposition. It's simultaneously here and not here. Normal weapons can't affect it because they only exist in one-dimensional state. But if we create a weapon that exists in multiple dimensions at once, we can hit it where it actually is, Sarah finished. How do we do that? We need to create a feedback loop in the quantum resonance array. Instead of using it to send messages across space, we turn it into a multi-dimensional cannon. The energy requirements are staggering. We'd need to tap directly into Earth's molten core. Admiral Torres's voice joined the conversation. Pavel, are you seriously suggesting we drill into the planet's core and use it as ammunition? Yes. Admiral the Nexari would never consider such a thing because it could destabilize the entire planet. But humans have been doing dangerous things with our world for centuries. We've detonated nuclear weapons, created black holes in laboratories, and terraformed entire moons. Using our planet's core as a weapon is just the next logical step. There was a moment of silence as everyone processed this. Finally, Emperor Zephylos spoke. You would risk destroying your own world to save ours. Your Majesty, Sarah replied, that's what Death Worlders do. We take impossible risks and find ways to survive them. The next few hours were a blur of activity. Human engineers worked alongside Nexari scientists to modify the quantum resonance array. They drilled deep into Earth's crust, creating conduits that would channel the planet's own energy into the weapon. It was dangerous beyond all reason, but it was also the only plan that might work. As the Shadow Plague approached Earth, ships from both species took defensive positions. The Nexori vessels were elegant and efficient, their crystalline hulls reflecting starlight like jewels. Human ships were blocky and utilitarian, built for function over form. Together, they represented two completely different approaches to survival. "Contact in 30 minutes, reported the tactical officer. Sarah could see the darkness now, a wave of absolute nothingness that consumed light itself. Behind it, space simply didn't exist anymore. The Shadow Plague had destroyed entire star systems, leaving nothing but void. "Pavel, how's our weapon?" she asked. "Charging now. I've linked the quantum resonance array to 17 geothermal plants and 3 nuclear reactors. We're literally using the planet's life force as ammunition, and if it doesn't work, then we find another way. That's what humans do." The Shadow Plague struck Earth's outer defense perimeter. The first wave of conventional weapons passed through it harmlessly, just as they had against the Nexori. But then Pavel's modified quantum cannon fired. The weapon didn't look like much, just a beam of twisted light that seemed to bend space around it. But when it hit the Shadow Plague, something extraordinary happened. The darkness recoiled. For the first time in its existence, something had hurt it. "It's working," Pavel shouted. "The multi-dimensional burst is destabilizing its quantum matrix." The battle that followed was unlike anything in galactic history. Human ships dove straight into the darkness, their crews trusting their death welder instincts to find ways to survive. Nexari vessels provided support, their precise calculations guiding the humans' chaotic but effective tactics. Ambassador Quill watched in amazement as human pilots performed maneuvers that should have been impossible, flying through twisted space-time as if it were just another obstacle to overcome. They're not just fighting the Shadow Plague, he realized. They're fighting reality itself. The final blow came when Pavel overloaded the quantum cannon, channeling so much power through it that it created a cascade reaction. The Shadow Plague, which had consumed thousands of worlds, found itself being consumed in turn. The darkness collapsed into a singularity and vanished, leaving behind only empty space and the memory of terror. In the aftermath, as both species celebrated their victory, Emperor Zephylos approached Captain Chen. "We called you Death Worlders because we thought you were warriors. But you are more than that. You are the children of chaos, beings who create order from destruction." Sarah smiled. "Your Majesty, we prefer to think of ourselves as problem solvers. We just happen to solve problems that other species consider impossible." "And that," Zephylos replied, "is why the ancient texts warned about summoning you. You don't just fight your enemies, you change the very nature of the fight itself." As the joint human Nexari fleet began rescue operations for the scattered survivors of the Shadow Plague's rampage, both species realized they had found something precious, true allies. The Nexari had their elegance and wisdom, while humans had their chaos and determination. Together, they would explore the galaxy, face whatever challenges awaited, and prove that sometimes the most impossible partnerships create the most extraordinary results. The age of the Shadow Plague was over. The age of the Death Worlder Alliance had begun. Asterisk.